And welcome back. It is 12:05 here on 570 News Midday. On 570 News and Rogers TV. Thanks so much for being along. It is noon. That means it's the Tuesday Tech Hour here on 570 News. And today we'll be talking about sales tech. Mayhew is a provider of workplace solutions offering expertise in space management to better the productivity of employees. Mayhew incorporates interactive technology and audio-video to help make employees more engaged in their workplaces. And Paul Bradshaw has worked at Mayhew for over 20 years and is a strategic advisor for business leaders who want to enhance organizational results by leveraging people, process, technology, and space. Paul, thanks so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, drive was okay?
Not too bad. A little snowy, but not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, as soon as you get to the expressway, you really have to be careful, right? Because that's when you start seeing a lot of the snow.
Gets a little slippy out there.
Yeah, just a little bit. Well, thanks so much for being here and taking the time for us. First of all, tell me about Mayhew. What is Mayhew?
Yeah, we're an office interiors company, so we work with all types of organizations, helping them really leverage their physical space, so create a space where their employees can do their administrative functions, where they can collaborate, process, and ultimately drive business results.
Why is that physical space so important?
Well, it's where work happens. And, the workplace is changing, and there's been lots of questions as to, is the workspace going away with, work can happen anywhere. But it's a place where people come back and they connect to what the organization is all about. It's where people collaborate, they interact, and they get the things that they truly need that they can't always get by being remote.
We were just talking about that before we got onto the air. And it's so interesting because I had never looked at it that way before. I mean, I think most companies, businesses still have a workplace, right? Although increasingly we're seeing companies without workspaces as well.
Yeah, most companies do. And the change that we're really starting to see is the role that the workplace is playing. So we know that something called real estate optimization is becoming very, very important. Can I do more with less? Is my workspace working as hard as it truly can for my employees? And because of technology, we're starting to see desks shared as an example. So not everybody will own a workspace anymore, but they'll still need to come to the office. But we're seeing other places where people work too. We call it alternative work strategies, where maybe they can work at the local coffee shop, or they can work from their home, or they can work at the airport, but still have that need to come back to, we call it a destination hub.
Right. I know that there's a lot of beanbags in offices now. You go to some of these cutting-edge technology companies, and they've kind of changed up even the layout of the workspace.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is that we're trying to create spaces that engage people,
right.
Places where people truly want to come to work. We believe that you can feel better at the end of the day than when you got there. And there's no point going to a space where you can't work. So what do I need to do my job? We still have formal meeting spaces. We still have formal desks and private spaces, so we're balancing that. But what we're doing is we're creating spaces where people have choice, and they can choose the type of spaces that they work in.
We also talked about kind of a lack of engagement from employees today. And, it's interesting because I don't think that it's such a novel concept, or it shouldn't be anyway, to a lot of organizations, businesses, companies, that, an engaged person is a good employee. A happy employee is a good employee, right? I mean, that's not something that's novel.
It's not. It's interesting. Engagement is something that a lot of different people are starting to talk about. Gallup, who is do a tremendous amount of surveys, in their most recent study where they looked at the global state of the workforce, is they actually found that 87% of the workforce is disengaged. That number in Canada is 16% of the Canadian workforce is engaged, which means the rest is not.
What does that mean, though? What does disengaged mean?
Well, it has an impact on the bottom line. So we know that comparing a company that's engaged versus disengaged, companies that engage will outperform disengaged companies. They have higher productivity, higher profitability, lower turnover, less absenteeism, fewer health and safety incidents. So that's a very strong impact on the bottom line, and that's important.
But what kind of things are we talking about when we say engagement? I mean, is it things like, office? What are we talking? I can't even think about anything that would be considered engagement, but what are we talking about?
Engagement really relates to behavior and how people act, and behavior over time relates to the culture of the organization. So if you have an engaged employee, most employees want to do a good job, and so you want to provide them the tools that they need to do a good job. And if you do that, and there's some basic things like HVAC and those types of things, but if you can provide them the spaces where they can do a good job, then you're going to get the results that you really need.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Just a few months ago, we were talking about, I don't even know if we have to go back that far, but we were talking on the show about a study that showed that, people sticking around in a company for 25 years and then retiring from that company after 25, 30 years, that's a thing of the past, right? I mean, people are moving, changing workplaces very often. I wonder if that has anything to do with being engaged. If someone is not engaged, they probably don't feel challenged every day, and they're probably looking for something else.
I totally agree with you. I also think there's some generational impact on that. Is that the younger generations that are coming into the workforce want to be challenged differently than, say, Gen X and baby boomers that are in the workforce. But we are definitely seeing the younger generation have 3, 4, 5 times as many jobs by the time they hit the age of 30. That's a cost to a company. When somebody leaves, the knowledge also leaves with them. So by having engaged employees, you're right, they stay longer.
Yeah.
That knowledge stays with the company longer.
You said, you mentioned the generational differences. What are some kind of differences between the generations in terms of engagement?
It's interesting is there's very little. So the Steelcase also completed a study to look at employee engagement, and they looked at a whole bunch of different factors of what the generations wanted and how that related to engagement. There was no difference. Actually, there was one. The biggest difference between a older generation and the younger generation is the younger generation was comfortable using earbuds to create privacy. That was the only difference.
Yeah.
So people, they want to do a good job and they want the tools to be able to do a good job.
But the 9 to 5 is also gone as well, right? I mean, who works 9 to 5 anymore?
Yeah. We talked about that just before we came on air. And, the baby boomer generation, they used to go to the office from 9 to 5 and we said maybe a little bit on Saturday morning. And work would stay at work. And today it's not that way. Because of technology, the ability to grab data anywhere, we're always on. And the new generation comes in, there's not work-life balance anymore. It's work-life integration, and the ability to work anywhere at any time.
You're technically working right now with what you brought into the studio today.
I am. I have just some cheat notes on a tablet, and I can access the same cheat notes on my laptop or on my iPhone. I can work anywhere.
Paul Bradshaw is in studio with us, Vice President of Workplace Features at Mayhew. I mean, based on what you said, I mean, is it safe to say that technology is that double-edged sword here where it's kind of connected us? Because that's what a lot of technology is, right? I mean, when I look at Facebook, for example, I look at that as a tool of being able to connect with people that I haven't been able to. Maybe it's distance that's separating us. Maybe we haven't talked since high school and we still live in the same town. I can do that now. I can connect with people via Facebook. But at the same time, it's also disconnected us, maybe perhaps to an extent.
Absolutely. And I think that this is where we're seeing the rebirth of the office is due to that disconnection. Things like social media, you mentioned Facebook, Twitter, those types of things, really started off, and they're called social media because it was really played in the non-business field.
Yeah.
And I can remember not too long ago where organizations said, you're not allowed on Facebook during office hours. That's funny now. I mean, that you would never dream of having that. So that ability to connect to people very quickly in a very informal fashion, not writing long emails, becomes really important. The disconnect, and what's happened with the disconnect is people have lost touch with what the organization is all about. And having what we call the rebirth of the office, that office has changed. It's become that destination hub where people now need to go back there so they can connect face to face, because you still need to do that. You still need to collaborate side by side. Not always, because distance collaboration is possible too. But the connection to the brand, what that company is all about, having that space reflect what your organization is.
So the companies that are doing that well, what are the major differences in what they're doing to the companies that perhaps have a lower or have a crop of employees who aren't engaged?
I think the biggest thing is that they're a lot of those companies and a lot of successful companies know that if their people and their processes and their technology are aligned and moving in the same direction, they're going to achieve business results. The real successful companies know that if I include space in that, because all those activities happen in space, then they're going to be even more successful. So they're understanding what their people do, what their people need, and then the technologies that they use and how that can be housed in space.
Is there anything specific that you want to touch on that Mayhew does to help companies out?
Absolutely. So part of we have a bit of a unique process where we will come in right off the top and complete a visioning session with leadership to fully understand what the organization is all about, and then come back with recommendations and a bit of a roadmap of how they can leverage the space they've already got. From the next step, if they choose to move forward, then we have full interior design services. So we are a true interior design company with registered interior design professionals, where we can create the plans that they need, the finishes, all the fun stuff as well, right through the implementation, so we can then furnish that space with the right tools that you need.
All right. The website is mayhew.ca, and I did want to thank you very much for coming in and speaking with us.
Thank you for having us.
All right. That is Paul Bradshaw, Vice President of Workplace Features at Mayhew. We're back with much more here on Rogers TV and 570 News. All right, it is 12:20 here on 570 News Midday on 570 News and Rogers TV. Thanks very much for being along. It is the Tuesday Tech Hour. We're talking about sales tech, and joining me in studio now is Lorne Paddleford. He's the head sales scientist at Shopify, shopify.ca. How are you? Thanks so much.
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I was thinking about how timely sales is now with the Christmas rush coming, right?
Yes.
Everybody's out and about. I was trying to get into Conestoga Mall just the other day, and the lineup to even get into the parking lot to try to park was out onto King Street. So
yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, this is pretty timely. Everybody's out there and shopping right now. So.
Yeah, it's that time of year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again for being here. Tell me about Shopify.
Sure. So Shopify is a platform that allows merchants to sell anywhere, anytime from a single platform. So whether you sell online or offline, we can help you take your products and deliver them to the world. So if you think about that, we have 120,000 merchants worldwide who use our platform every day to sell their products, whether it's sweaters that you made in your basement or large service offerings from some of the largest companies and merchants in the world.
Why is that advantageous rather than just selling it yourself?
Yeah, so it's a market opportunity, basically. It's a channel. So how do you get your products exposed to the most potential buyers worldwide as fast as you possibly can without having to spend a whole lot of time and effort managing that process? So what Shopify did is we wanted to make the experience and the capabilities of large e-commerce and large commerce companies available to everybody. And so you can basically go on and start a store, and it'll be up and running and exposed to the world this afternoon. And so so it's really, really simple. It's really, really powerful. And, that's why we're growing as quickly as we are. You brought up the time of year.
Yeah.
And we're coming up to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And when you look at e-commerce and commerce in general, I mean, the growth is just staggering. The amount of money being spent online every minute of every day in this 2 to 3 week period is just mind-boggling.
And that's growing.
And that's growing, yeah. And if you think about e-commerce is still a tiny fraction of commerce.
Right.
So it's massive in that you think Black Friday will do $6-7 billion worth of commerce in one day. Well, that's still only 7% or so of the overall commerce market. And so it's huge numbers. And if you're a merchant and you want to get exposed to that, it has traditionally been difficult because you had to buy a lot of IT systems, you had to spend a lot of time managing that process. And so with Shopify, we make it easy. You just show up, you sign up, and load your products, and off to the races.
Right, you just need a product to sell.
Yeah, you just
need
a product.
Need a product. Yeah,
that's true.
So how many people are using this right now? I mean, how many businesses are using this?
Yeah, there's 120,000 worldwide,
and that's a mixture of small and large, and
that's everything. That's the person in the basement knitting, the sweaters you wear at Christmas, to people doing hundreds of millions of dollars a year through their online and offline stores, and that's a mixture of bricks and mortar retail as well as we do offline retail, so digital cash registers, point of sale systems, and the e-commerce environment.
And how long has this been around?
So, Shopify as a company has been around since 2006. We're growing extremely quickly, and we have been since we started because of the growth in e-commerce and because the platform itself is so easy to use. But we've really seen the acceleration of that over the last 5 years, right? As that shift from traditional bricks and mortar to online accelerates. And so what's interesting is you actually see a whole group of customers now going, well, I have both, right? I have this big e-commerce environment and I have bricks and mortar stores. And so it's moved from e-commerce to commerce. It's how do you satisfy the need to sell anywhere at any time?
Once you sign up, what do you get?
Yeah, so you get a fully empowered platform. So basically, think of it as if you signed up for a Shopify account right now, you could build your whole website. So it looked like your store. It had all your logos and branding. It was really beautiful. And all your products were on there. And people could show up and they could buy your products and they could use whatever payment model they wanted. If they wanted to use Bitcoin, they could buy your products in Bitcoin if they wanted to. Or Visa.
Is anyone doing that?
Sure, absolutely, yeah. And they could buy it online. They could buy it on their mobiles, right? Our site's fully responsive, so it's beautiful no matter where you interact with it. And so you get all this out of the box. You get all this for just signing up. That's what we built, is a fully functional platform that is easy to set up and easy to manage so that you can focus on a business instead of running your e-commerce environment. And so you get all that, all the payment gateways, all the payment processing, all the connections to shippers and things like that. It's all built in.
Who are some of your bigger clients?
The clients range all over the place. You can think we have customers who sell products, for like the large, let's say, you have customers like Tesla.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So if you want to go, you can't buy Tesla cars.
Well, I was going to say, you buy a car,
but you can buy Tesla hats. Right?
Okay.
The swag shops, right? Budweiser's swag shop, things like that, right? And so you get large vendors like that and you get small. The reality is the most of our customers, you would never actually know who they were. They aren't big brand names that are common to most people. But there's a fascinating statistic that says if you buy online, right, the odds are that you've been on Shopify in the last week. Right? You just didn't know.
Yeah,
you don't see Shopify, you see the merchants. Right?
So these websites might be run by Shopify, is what you're saying?
No, so they're not run by Shopify. Shopify is a platform,
right?
So you're a merchant, you start a Shopify store. We just run the back end for you.
Okay,
right? It's never branded to Shopify; it's your branding. So we have 120,000 stores that you would never know it was Shopify in the back end.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, it really is. And as you mentioned, how fast is it growing? I mean, how many new people are signing up? Yeah,
so we grow very, very quickly. I think, the Deloitte Fast 50 came out and we were number 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So we were growing very, very fast. We grow thousands of new customers a month. And so it's just a constant push to expand our customer base. And, as e-commerce and commerce grows, this need to have an unlimited ability to sell in any channel becomes greater and greater.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of products I could start up right now. Maybe
everyone does that.
I'm talking to you thinking about products. What do I have that I could sell, or what can I make that I can sell?
I know. I've told my whole family that same thing.
Maybe I'll think of something during the break. We're in studio with Lauren Paddleford, the head sales scientist at Shopify, shopify.ca. We'll be back with more with Lauren. And it's interesting because you're opening up a sales lab here in Kitchener. And so we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about much more when we come back here on Rogers TV and 570 News. All right, welcome back. It is 12:35 here on 570 News, midday on 570 News and Rogers TV. It is the Tuesday Tech Hour. We're talking sales tech. Lauren Paddleford, the head sales scientist at Shopify, shopify.ca is the website, is with us in studio. And we've been learning a lot about Shopify and what that has done with e-commerce. We were talking during the break, and how fast is e-commerce growing compared to normal commerce?
Yeah, e-commerce is growing a multiple of the normal commerce industry. So if you think, say online versus offline, so e-commerce generally grows, north of 25% a year. So if you go and look at the various people who track that in IDC and Gartner and things like that, and you can see how fast that's growing. Whereas regular commerce grows somewhere, 4 to 6% a year. And so it tells you about the shift of people's buying habits and where they tend to want to go. E-commerce is becoming simpler, more secure. The availability of product is getting larger and larger. And even the traditional offline retailers, the big box stores, the guys you see in the mall, have started to realize that we need to start shifting and focusing a lot more on our ability to sell anywhere. And I think that's the trend. Is you look at mobile devices and the fact that mobile's taken over our entire lives. Well, if you can't buy anything you want mobily, you start to get annoyed, right? And so this is the reality of commerce as it exists today. Is I want to buy it when I want to buy it. If I see it on Pinterest, I want to buy it right then. If I see it on Facebook, I want to buy it, right? If I, walk by something and see it, I want to be able to buy that thing without a whole big process in front of me. And so this is where technology comes in. This is where companies like Shopify come in and say, we can make how you put your products in the hands of your customers way easier, regardless of whether you're online or offline.
There will always be those people, though, that will want to touch something, make sure it fits, make sure it's sturdy, whatever, before they buy it online, though.
Yeah, and I think there's always going to be a need for whatever reason to touch and feel product, to experience product before you make a buying decision. And so the question becomes, how do you satisfy that requirement? Do you turn bricks and mortar into showrooms that people touch and feel, and then they go and buy
essentially
online?
That's what a lot of them have become, though.
It has become that for a lot of cases. And you look at things like electronics and gifts and things like that. There is this kind of undercurrent of I go and look at it and then I search around. And a lot of times people will search. I know I do this, and I'll be searching stuff in the store. I'll be on my my mobile phone looking at information. And so that's what I mean by you want to give customers the ability to buy your product anywhere at any time. And so if you're limiting them by only having a bricks and mortar store, that's a problem, because I have to be in front or in your store to remember you exist. Versus if you had online, offline, you were ubiquitous through the various mediums that you can sell and buy product through, it's much, much easier.
Is it a battle between e-commerce and commerce, or do they go hand in hand?
I don't think it's a battle at all, actually. I think the customers want to buy stuff, right? And so all of us are trying to make commerce easier, and Shopify's goal is to make commerce better, right? And so to make commerce better, you have to make it easier for customers to buy regardless of where they are. And so I think it's just a movement towards what the consumer actually wants. And I don't think you're ever going to eliminate bricks and mortar. I don't think anyone actually wants to eliminate bricks and mortar. I think they just want to make the buying experience seamless. And the technology move, that mobile movement, just forces everybody's hand. It forces you to have to provide a mechanism to buy your products and services in an online world. So how do you do that?
And that's happening with everything nowadays, because go back, I don't know how long you'd have to go back, 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years. Did anybody ever think that you'd be able to buy a car online or I don't know where we stand with, things like houses or whatever, but at least from the standpoint of, glancing at things and getting an idea. I mean, things are changing so quickly with the big buys too, where people are actually deciding to make some of these purchases online as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the entire shift in technology has pushed that all faster and faster. The same 20 years ago, no one would have thought that you'd all walk around with these little computers in your hand that were super high powered. And so that just gave us the ability to do whatever we wanted now. And commerce is having to catch up. E-commerce led that, and now it's shifting over to being just seamless commerce.
You're opening up a sales office in Kitchener.
Absolutely.
Why?
That's a great question. And for me, it was obvious. Kitchener, the Kitchener-Waterloo Tech Center is this great incubator of world-class technology. It's got super bright people, a bunch of universities, a bunch of a community focused on technology. And traditionally, that's been what they've been focused on, is technology.
Right.
And
but you're opening up a sales office.
But I'm opening up a sales office. And that was intentional. It was to bring the next level, is once you've created the cool technology, how do you sell it, right? And so for me, I looked around and I said, what a great place to create a sales office, to put salespeople around all this innovative technology, around all these startups who are constantly rethinking the world. And I think about sales in maybe a slightly different way. I think of it scientifically, but I also think sales needs to be hacked. Sales needs to be broken down back to its core and rebuilt to satisfy the demands that all these startups have and companies like Shopify have. And so when the question arose, where should we open up the sales office? To me, it was obvious. There was so much cool happening in this area that I wanted to feed off that, and I wanted to bring the same level of sales innovation to the Kitchener-Waterloo area that we have in just technology anyways.
Right. So is that going to be your office now across the street here?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're so we officially, as of November 1st, we have a space in the Tannery building. And so we're right in the same building as Communitech and Google and the whole hub and everything, which is great. It's a very cool space. And so we're hiring right now for that office. We've got a job requisition out for 5 to start with, and who knows where we go from then.
Who are you hiring?
Yeah, salespeople. Okay. Right? Ultimately, the people who want to hack sales, who want to figure out how to build a sales model that works in super high volume, in super unique environments like we have at Shopify. Mm-hmm. And so, people always ask, well, how do you hire salespeople? I always say the same thing, right? I hire personalities, right? Are they smart? Do they want to work hard? Are they creative? Can they learn quickly? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need, right? That's what you need. That's what we have in droves here. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, Kitchener-Waterloo is swarming with innovation. And so is there a better place to build a sales innovation lab?
No,
probably
but there is something ironic with an e-commerce company building up or opening up a bricks and mortar store.
I suppose, right? I suppose it is interesting that we're going to open a bricks and mortar space. Although,
you still need offices.
Offices.
You'll always need offices.
That's
I totally
true.
get that. How cool is the Tannery building, by the way?
Yeah, the Tannery is super cool. And so when we were looking around for offices, we toured a space in there, and to me, it was a no-brainer. That's the space we want to be in. The vibe, everybody in there, it's very, very, it's very cool.
What's the next step for you guys?
So, I'm a sales guy. Whenever you ask sales guys these kind of questions, you always get things like world domination and that kind of question there. So the next step for us is growth, is to build this team here, figure out exactly how we want to do sales at another level at Shopify, and then expand and really deliver what Shopify does to our customer base faster and at a higher level with larger customers. And so that's what we're doing. And so the hope is that this is just the beginning, and we continue to expand this office out and grow it up as Shopify grows. All
right. Well, good luck to you, and thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is Lauren Paddleford, the head sales scientist at Shopify. Shopify.ca is the website. We'll be back with much more on Rogers TV and 570 News. It is 12:48 here on 570 News, midday on 570 News and Rogers TV. It is the Tuesday Tech Hour. Thanks so much for being along. We're talking about sales tech, and Mike Rossi is the co-founder of Sweet Tooth. SweetToothRewards.com is the website. And Mike takes some time, joins me in studio. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me about Sweet Tooth.
Yeah, so Sweet Tooth is a company that helps online merchants set up a loyalty program that helps them retain their customers.
Okay.
Keeps them coming back over time.
Right. Okay, so once I have a product to sell, I go on Shopify.ca. I set up...
That's a good example, yeah.
Yeah, and then you help me retain my customers.
Yeah, exactly. So traditionally with online stores, people generally just Google the thing they're looking to buy, will purchase that item, and then don't necessarily go back to the same place later on. They'll look for the lowest price, or they'll just see whatever's at the top of Google search results later on. So what we're helping retailers do is bring those customers who are shopping one time at a store and bringing them back in the future.
How are you doing that?
So we help the merchants launch and run a points-based loyalty program. So similar to how a Shoppers Optimum program works for people who shop at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Right, okay.
We help the same sort of program be set up and run for an online store.
Is that a challenge? I mean, you must have to get to know the client very, very well to be able to do something like that. I mean, is it different for everyone?
Yeah, so the thing that's been a really big challenge, and the reason why no one's sort of done this successfully yet, is it's hard to make it a self-serve platform. So it's hard to make the technology in such a way that people can use this software without contacting us.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, so this has been possible for a few years, but the thing is, for a merchant to implement it and to launch it, it's been technically a hard thing for them to do.
Okay. So, I mean, talk about some of the challenges then of what you had to do.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of the research that we've done is talking to customers, so talking to online merchants, figuring out exactly what their challenges were. So we had to thoroughly understand that problem of retaining customers and exactly what they wanted to do with their loyalty programs before we could build a product around that experience that they want to sort of create for their customers.
How many customers are you working with?
So we have several thousand customers who are using Sweet Tooth, and a couple hundred now on Shopify. We actually launched our Shopify integration a few months ago, so good timing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any kind of unique experiences that you can talk about, or?
Yeah, so we have some merchants who have actually built on top of our platform to develop some really, really cool experiences. One of which is Universal Music Group. They build loyalty program across all their artist sites, and then have a central sort of portal where everyone can redeem points and things like that. So there's some really cool implementations. Another example is Ren's Pets Depot, which is actually a local company. They run their in-store rewards program in tandem with their online program using Sweet Tooth.
So what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So people can earn points either in store or online, and then spend them either in store or online.
I see. Yeah.
So that's sort of a first for a local program around here, and you see sort of the passionate customer base that Ren's Pets Depot has. People shop there, and they'll never shop somewhere else. My parents, for example, are
me.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. My girlfriend's a veterinarian, so we just go there all the time because, well, she wanted us to go there. But you know what I mean. It's a great place to go, and they do some great student stuff and discounts and whatnot too,
And the big thing that a program like that allows people to do, or allows merchants to do, is it allows them to compete on something else other than price. It allows you to provide an experience that's saying thanks to the customer, instead of saying, okay, we have the lowest price, shop with us just because we have the lowest price.
That doesn't work very often, does it?
Well, it works for a period of time until enough competition comes along, which we're seeing actually happen in e-commerce. So if you were to start, for example, a T-shirt business online right now, it would be very tough because T-shirt businesses have existed online for a while. And so so price pressures are pushing all the prices very close.
T-shirt business off the list. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So there are some niches that are still profitable, but commoditized goods that are sold online are really difficult to be competitive on. So retailers are now looking for the extra edge, which seems to be customer retention and customer loyalty.
But in the end, I mean, isn't price the basic thing that will attract people to your store or to your product?
Yeah, it is. So it depends on what type of merchant you want to be. Do you want to be sort of a Walmart type merchant where you're actually or Amazon where you're delivering everything as close to the margin as you can, or do you want to deliver some sort of experience above that so you can start charging higher prices? And if you look at a couple Shopify merchants, you'll quickly see which type of merchant any given store is. Are they trying to compete on price, or are they trying to compete on experience?
If you're trying to compete on experience, you're saying that you have a higher chance of retaining customers that way? Yeah.
So you want people to move through a process. You want them to move from being a first-time shopper on your site to a repeat customer. That's the first step. And then from a repeat customer to becoming a brand advocate. If you're to the point where you're telling other people about the brand, that's how
word of mouth.
That's how Ren's Pets is successful, right? They have people telling other people about the brand. But if your first-time customers are coming in just because it's the lowest price, well, next time they go for a purchase, they're going to look somewhere else for the lowest price, or they're going to look wherever they can for the lowest price. But if they have a great experience instead, they're more likely to move towards that brand advocate state.
Unless you can guarantee the lowest price every time.
Yeah, and so that actually is a way that some retailers create loyalty, because they're just well known to have the lowest prices. Yeah, exactly.
Both ways can be successful, though, right?
Yeah, and so what we're trying to help small businesses do online is compete on the experience side, because it's really hard for a small business online to compete on price, just because they don't have the scale to be able to compete with stores like Amazon or Alibaba. And this is something that Shopify helps merchants do as well. But competing on experience, providing a great mobile site, providing a loyalty program, some sort of retention strategy, that's sort of how a small business can succeed and start growing online.
Those retention strategies, though, I mean, do you come up with that, or do they come up with that and come to you for for setup help?
Generally, they start feeling the pain. So they start seeing their sales dropping year after year, or they start seeing pressure on price. So they start moving to, or customers start moving to competition. So they don't exactly know what they're looking for, but they sort of have an idea that they need to start retaining customers. So a loyalty program is one great way to do that. There's also things like email marketing or very well-timed email marketing and other things like that. So we provide a blog on our website that helps merchants sort of understand this problem that they're running into, even though they don't realize it. And so a loyalty program is one way that you can solve that, but there's quite a few other strategies as well.
How often do people just go to a loyalty program, though? Is that the main thing that people do?
Online merchants?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's probably one of the things they look at when they're sort of evaluating their options. Our goal is to get more and more people to look at that because we think it's a very sustainable way of running an online business. We've seen how our customers have performed and how well they've done. So we want to move more and more people to have some sort of loyalty program. Now, whether that's points based or sort of a buy 10 get one free, or even some sort of surprise that you can provide customers after a certain number of visits or purchases. Whatever that is, we want some sort of customer retention or some sort of loyalty program in place at most online stores.
Mm-hmm. And have you been growing over the years? I mean, how is that going?
Yeah, so we've grown almost well over 100% every year we've been around, and we've been around sort of about three and a bit years now.
So still fairly new, yeah.
Yeah, and we're actually located sort of 2 floors downstairs, so feel free to come down anytime. Yeah,
I'll come down for a tour then. Thanks so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Great to be here.
All right, Mike Rossi right there, the co-founder of Sweet Tooth. SweetToothRewards.com is the website. It is 12:57 here on 570 News Midday. If you are watching us on Rogers TV, thank you so much. Stick around. Daytime is next. We will be back with much more here on 570 News.